major, robust welfare state that virtually does everything for its citizens. So the target is to increase tax to GDP ratio, and there are a number of measures being rolled out. It is still early days yet. In addition, as was emphasized, Mr. Chairman, by the Honorable Senate on December 30, when passing into law the 2024 appropriation bill, you admonished the government, the financial team, to ensure that revenue that belonged to the federal government, revenue that belonged to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, was identified and was brought in. And that is a task which we have set about, and I'll give you the initial report from there because it shows the direction of travel. In 2023, January, the return, the take, the remittances from ministries, departments, agencies, federal government-owned companies, and revenue-earning arms of the government was about 20 billion naira. In January 2024, as a result of the concerted effort, which includes digitization, using technology to ensure that in line with the Fiscal Responsibility Act and various measures and circulars from the Secretary to the Government, from the Ministry of Finance, that revenue due to the CRF from revenue-generating government-owned enterprises was taken immediately rather than waiting for compliance with the extant regulations. As a result, by January 2024, the revenue was up to almost 100 billion naira from 20 the year before. That is a response, and that is a reaction and also a result of the measures that have been taken, although it is still early stages. Even for February, we're still collating the figures to compare. But what we can see is that there's a substantial increase in revenue coming from remittances by the federal government-owned revenue-earning enterprises, ministries, departments, and agencies. Essentially, the effort that has been started is to be kept up. And I'm sure, distinguished senators, Mr. Chairman, there will be a time when we can give further data in this all-important area. We all know that our revenue itself is up. We can see what is happening to the Federation account, and also because the Federation account is in Naira, the movement that has occurred in the foreign exchange market is also meaning a ballooning, I might say, of Naira revenue in the Federation account. Alongside that is our own efforts at the domestic resource mobilization, which, as I've said, has produced, when you compare the first month of 2023 with the first month of 2024, is essentially a five-fold increase. That's what you call a quantum leap. So if we have a quantum leap, if that quantum leap is measured, is mirrored rather, all through the year, and that is our intention, we can see that recurrent revenue is expected to increase substantially. The total revenue from June to December 2023 was 3.6 trillion. We're not saying that all components of that revenue will increase 5 times, but we are looking at the internally generated revenue to increase around 5 times, according to the current trend. We are expecting, and I think you passed the budget, that as at 2024 December, we will have roughly 13 trillion naira in tax revenue. As at December 31st, 2023, the figure was 10 trillion. So we are expecting a substantial increase there. And I think the estimate is even conservative. We're expecting much more. If I can just give us a sense of spending to date, because it's important. The reason why the government needs to increase its revenue is so that it can spend. We are actually not having enough revenue to deliver critical infrastructure, to deliver social services, and to deliver other essential services that a modern economy delivers to its citizens, delivers to its investors. And that is the reason why there is such emphasis on increasing federal revenue. Capital expenditure is important. From June to December, the period of which Mr. President took office to the end of last year, around 2.9 trillion was the capital spending. For the year, the budget was 8 trillion, but 2.9 trillion was what was spent overall. This year, we have just started. 124 billion has been spent out of the capital budget, but that's almost in advance of the gearing up and release of the capital budget proper through the computerized system. Mr. Chairman, sir, on the recurring side, we have spent just about 581 billion naira in January and February on savings and statutory transfers, and another 75 billion on overheads. You had asked me about stamp duty.
Honorable Inside, you said from January, is it recorded?
75 billion, January and February. Salaries, recurring transfers, statutory transfers, and overheads. When we look at the stamp duty, 1% of stamp duties that is meant to be collected, the actual stamp duty collected, and I'm looking at the year to make sure that I get it right. In 2023, the actual stamp duty collected was 53 billion naira in total. Essentially a monthly budget of 3.7. National Assembly, and actual collection was 53. So it's a positive variance in stamp duty collected. And I think what was of concern to you was that to know it's being collected and dutifully so. Mr. Chairman, distinguished senators, you did say that we should expect a interaction on a regular basis. As you want to stay on top of the figures, you want to stay on top of the trends of revenue coming into the consolidated revenue fund of the federal government, and at the same time, of course, a sense of where the expenditure is going. In conclusion, may I commit to doing exactly as you have indicated, keeping you up to date on the finances, the direction, the quantum, and the specifics income and expenditure of the federal government, whilst I, as the person that has the privilege and vaunted position of effectively being the government's treasurer, I thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
The non-oil revenue in 2023 was 13 trillion. My correction, 13 trillion.
Okay, 13.
We started with and we ended with, Mr. Chairman, customs duty waivers. Of course, there have to be incentives for production. Tax incentives, there are incentives in the oil and gas industry which have been fiscal incentives which have just been revamped to encourage production. So there were waivers on customs duty, running, as you say, into trillions, 1% of GDP, some estimates. There are some who point out that, look, the waivers that are actually issued come to perhaps a lot less, in the sense that, let's say, 1 trillion worth of waivers are issued. Maybe only 15% are taken up or can be measured. So there is cloudiness, opaqueness, and an element of uncertainty about how the whole regime works. And we noted that, and there's no reason why the country should be losing in this way, in this day and age. In a nutshell, distinguished senators, Mr. Chairman, sir, we are going to do away with the existing system. It is automated, which means that you apply for your duty waiver and it's processed online and then sent to customs, and they see that they don't have to charge you. That system is what I may call, from my use of Latin, is an ex-ante system. You get it up front. The same system can be rejigged, even, sir, without changing the law. The law says, the rules and regulations say there's a duty waiver X%. It doesn't say whether you should take it up front or whether you should take it ex-ante. We all remember from traveling how this VAT abroad, there used to be VAT charged and you could claim it back. But it's only when you get to the airport and show the goods that you bought in town, hopefully intact, you can't start wearing them and still say they are new. But you will show them and they will immediately refund you. That is the system we want to introduce. If you want duty waiver, pay your duty. When we are clear that you have brought in the goods you said you are going to bring in, you automatically get it back. We can do it. We have the technology. We have the payment system. Nigeria is leading the world in financial technology and payments. And so that is the commitment. The way to do away with a lot of what you would call anomalies is just to bring technology, shine a light on it, and have a seamless process. And that's the answer, Mr. Chairman. We are hoping to implement that. We're hoping to get the necessary approvals and implement it virtually immediately. If you want a duty waiver, pay your duty and get it back. I assume some of the biggest companies will have an arrangement where they get a time guarantee or something like that, which is just as good. In terms of the national economy, we should not be despondent. We have done the hard part. Mr. President, through his bold and courageous measures, which are recognized around the world as being beyond the usual, what you would normally see, to be able to so briskly and robustly change the things that are wrong. And it wasn't just a set of measures. It's not just lifting of subsidy here or margin of rates there, no. It is a strategic plan. The whole fiscal side, the government's finances have been repaired. even today, you, distinguished senators, have helped further to encourage and embolden the executive to further repair the finances, the fiscal situation of this country by endorsing and urging us to do something about the leakages in the import duty waiver system. And we have explained to you what we will do, and even from your body language, I believe you feel that that is in the right direction. But so much more has been done. As I said, there's a fiscal policy and tax reform committee of the highest standards, and they are going to roll out, hopefully, because it will require your own support and your own diligence to show them where they're going wrong, and your own hard work to ensure that we get a timely passage of the bill that is coming to implement some improvement to the tax regime and the fiscal regime in general. So if we are to assess where we have done the hard bit. And Mr. President always said that there would be discomfort and it would take some time for the measures, the benefits of the measures to come through. And he promised, in particular, he would intervene on behalf of the poor, the vulnerable, the weak. And that is what he has not only done, but he keeps doing. We are just restarting. And it took cleaning of the data to make sure that everybody that benefits from the direct payments, I don't like to call it cash because cash connotes bags of money. It is not. It is direct payment to people who have been biometrically and digitally identified and can be identified in future and be audited as those who receive this money. We have made sure that people have an NIN that is genuine, and they have a BVN that belongs to them, and they have to have both of those to get paid. However, what is happening is that rather than disqualifying somebody, people are encouraged to come. They go to them. The National Identity Management Commission make sure that once they identify someone doesn't have a name or something is wrong, they immediately capture them. Same with BVN, whether you have a bank account or wallet. So not only is money going to who it should go to, as you know, 75,000 Naira over 3 months to 15 million households, covering 75 million Nigerians. Not only are they being identified as genuine recipients, eligible recipients, but at the same time it is driving financial inclusion, which of course is the way to go. In terms of food security, I did, in my privileged position as a coordinator of the economy, I did meet the whole agricultural sector just before the dry farming season took off. Security was there, large farmers were there, small farmers, seed providers, input providers, machinery, people leasing machinery. They were all there. And we identified what the blockages were. No fertilizer has been provided, grains have been provided. And at the time, I asked that genuinely, what did they feel? And they said, we'll have a good dry season harvest. As you know, that harvest is scheduled for April 15th. And before then, Mr. President has released another 42,000 metric tons from the strategic reserve of grain or food, and another 62,000 tons or 60,000 tons of rice going to be made available just to tide us over that period. Because you have a good dry season harvest, you have a good wet season harvest, and that issue, because the inflation is food inflation. And I don't want to take our time going into the fact that it is going across the border and so forth. But what I would say is this: by emphasizing putting food, putting money in people's hands, giving people purchasing power, that maybe raises prices a bit, but it stops it going across the border because at a little higher price, the farmers will sell locally. And in terms of putting purchasing power in people's hands at this critical time, apart from the direct payments, there's the nano industries, the artisans, the water sellers, the food sellers, and repairers, and so forth. They are all, there's 50 billion naira going to be given across that whole ecosystem. 774 local governments, at least 1,000 people will benefit from 50,000 naira. Gives them cash in their hand to go and do what they feel is their priority. If it's food, they'll go to the market and buy food. Similarly, small and medium scale, and I'm trying to speak, Senator, to what you said about what about the economy as a whole. The economy is not the large scale. The heart of the economy is small and medium scale, especially in an entrepreneurial country like Nigeria, where everybody wants to be, quote unquote, on his own, working for himself. And those small and medium scale enterprises are being given funding at 9% right now through a scheme with the BOI. And the private sector is also coming in. Access Bank, we commiserate with them at this sad time for them. They've just weighed in with 50 billion naira for the small and medium scale sector. And we need that. We need state governments. We need the private sector to have all hands on deck to help the weaker in the society. We talked about inflation, and you have helped to solve that. But where has it come from? It's come from 8 years of just printing money. And the issue is that that money was not matched by productivity. It's not like when you earn dollars and you print the naira alongside it, although there's even a better way than that. But that's still not as bad. It's not as if the money is matched by productivity, increase in output. It is not. And what happened was that for 8 years, the weak were left to their own devices. It is the privileged few that took everything. That's the reality. So that money supply must be sucked back out to balance the economy. You, distinguished senators, have helped. You have given us the mandate to raise 7 trillion naira, which we will do by sucking money from the market, using to pay back the central bank and give the government a balanced books. We are going to audit. Even the 22.7 trillion, it's still there, and that also must be dealt with through the markets, not through something that was just printed. But we will audit because we need to be sure. I think on the issue of recovery, sir, it is clear that there's funding under the Presidential Infrastructure Development Initiative. And Senator Alero, fiscal policy. I think I've said that fiscal policy to encourage growth and investment is being looked at. May I just end this section, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
I think the Honourable Minister, you're not doing bad here. You touch almost every...
Distinguished Senator, former Minister of Labour, former member of the Economic Management Team, and my colleague, and still my colleague and a member of this wider Economic Management Team. Let me just clarify, first of all, luckily I am not alone. Mr. President emphasizes that it's a team effort. Just for the sake of good order, let me clarify that when I met the farmers, I was tagging along. We were led by the Minister for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abu Kyari, and His deputy, the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abdullahi. And in addition, the Minister for Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, was also there. So it was a full team that engaged with the farmers. That's just for clarification. More importantly, if I may say so, is that the suggestions, the one on wage action, which came first from my senator from Ogun Central, he talked about communications. We take that on board, 100%, and we'll just see how best to action it. The issue of wage action, really, I think what we were saying is that by now we would have expected to have had a new minimum wage structure, and it has not come to be. So the idea is to look at a payment of a salary increase, whether under any guise, across the board, as opposed to just federal. I think that's what the comment was, and it deserves full review and evaluation, and even action. In terms of automation of processes, definitely that is the way to improve things. That's the way to cut leakages. Finally, Senator Adero, you talked about the cost of collection. That too deserves to be looked at. May I end by saying where we have got to in terms of implementing your own mandate, particularly to block leakages and to bring on board to the consolidated revenue fund of the federal government all the money that is due to it. Twice a day, there's an automatic technological sweep of the revenue account. So government goes in independently and takes what is due to it, the government, from a revenue holding account, which all revenues go, before the percentage due to the government-owned enterprises now goes to them for spending. They will still be audited later, but as an interim measure, government is not waiting for compliance and for adherence to the rules and the laws by the government-owned enterprises, by the revenue-generating agencies. Twice a day, government goes in and collects. And I think when we apply such technology, digitalization, and automation of processes to expenditure, which we are planning to do, that will even take us further in terms of harnessing government revenue, minimizing government expenditure, and increasing efficiency. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much.